Hi, so I'm going to show you a little bit about how to use breakout rooms. It's going to be a really quick tutorial, so if you have more questions, let me know. But basically, you would go over here where it says activities, all those nice little shapes, and you have three options here. This is all of your people, this is the chat, and then this is your three options. So you'd go to breakout rooms, and it'll show you kind of a suggested amount of rooms. I generally will start with 2. I will clear the rooms because I usually set up the groups beforehand. We all know who may or may not work well together, or who may benefit from someone who's a little stronger with the material, or vice versa, who might need to sort of explain it out to understand it a little deeper. So I generally will schedule my groups beforehand. And then you can even get into scheduling group roles. You can have students choose roles, or you can assign their roles. And so I will actually have all of that kind of completed on a Google Doc. Their group roles, as well as sentence starters and the directions. The directions will be first. I make the directions very simple as I can. I do not want them to have to misread or accidentally misread something if I'm not there. Although I am there, and I do pop into the Google Meets, but I find it's very easy, I think, for students once they're kind of on their own to get distracted, and if there's something, an obstacle there, it's hard to come back from. So I do start with having them open that doc which has the directions. We go over the directions verbally. I make sure everybody has access to it, and then I will send them to the breakout rooms once I'm sure everybody has understood. I'll also often start with something that they should be doing in the meantime. So maybe the first question is a short response that they're going to talk about in their group first. That way, while I'm setting up the actual breakout rooms on the side, they have something that they are responsible for, because it does take a little bit. So I can do this in 2 ways. I can just type the names in here, right? Or I can drag and drop the names. You can shuffle and have them be kind of pre-completed. But again, if you assign your groups, obviously that doesn't really work. It's also kind of nice if you're going to have them in groups a lot to keep those groups consistent for a little bit, just because they get a little bit more comfortable with each other. And it is awkward when they start. They might stare at each other. They might turn their cameras off. I've had definitely some groups that are cameras off, working in the chat, and then I will pop in and try to facilitate that conversation a little bit. But I also might just have them on the side here, the names, and then just copy and paste one name at a time, because then it will come up here. And the reason I do that is because, let's say there are 6 groups. You can't really drag, I mean, you can drag and drop to the bottom, but I find it just a little bit clunky. So I generally will type them out before. As a personal preference, go with what you feel. But that's how I do it. I also will usually start, if there's a group that I know will take a little bit longer to do the assignment, or a group that may have a lot of questions, I will put them in my first breakout room, and I will actually just open the room before I fill out, before I go through all of them. And that I do that for every single group. I will then open the room, and they will be prompted to join the breakout room. They're going to keep circling because they're doing their own thing. So they would be in that breakout room, and then I would click edit, right, edit rooms up here, and then I would make my next group, right? So once I make my next group, then I would save it. They would go into their group, and then I would edit, and pretending I have more students, I would make my third room, and then add, and then save that room. It gives me an advantage, I think, because those groups will start and then circle back if they have questions to the main call, or I know who to jump onto first, and if I jump on their meet, they'll be a little bit ahead of the ones that are later. So the 6th group, right, has the time, that same kind of time that the first group does, and then I hop in each group. It does take a little bit, and that's just a reality of trying to sort all this stuff out. But that's why you really, it's a good idea to have them kind of doing something while you're setting up the groups. And I'm going to actually put them back in those groups. Now, and so then to hop into each group, and if I want to join this one, I can join. And then both of them would be in here. They just haven't accepted because they're, again, doing their own thing. But that's why you can see it circling and circling. So if you notice the students is circling like that, it's because they haven't accepted to join their group yet. And you know to kind of check in with them. But then I can join the next one. And if I want to go back to the main call, I can simply leave. Right? So when I leave, I go back to the main call. It has happened more than once, especially if I get a little flustered or something like that, where I will forget that I have to click leave and I will look up here because the students will see go back to the main call. They'll have a prompt right up here. And if I do get like stuck or my Wi-Fi ends up kind of lagging a little bit or my Chromebook dies and I have to jump on the desktop and I didn't, whatever the case may be, I can actually just right in here, type my name in the main call and save it. And it'll ask me and I'll say you've been invited to join the main call and I can go back. So that's kind of convenient. The other thing is that students will not be able to, if I was presenting my screen, it would come up here in the main call, but it wouldn't come up in their breakout rooms. So they would not be able to see my instructions, which is why I have them open up a doc. On that doc, I will also say when I expect them to come back to the main room. That being said, you can just click close rooms, and I will often do that a minute or two before they have to come back, and not even 2 minutes, probably a minute. And it kind of prompts them to get back to that main room, mostly because I sometimes will have them finishing up something or they'll be talking through something, and then they'll kind of get there quickly before the end of the class. So when I close rooms, they're asked to return to the main call. So they can still chat a little bit before going back to the main call. And then what else did I want to go over? I think that's about, you can also, it's also kind of a convenient way if you want to have everybody doing their own thing in their groups and you want to do a conference or something like that. You can put them each in their own call, or you can structure it so that, and I forget where I saw this, but I'm going to link it in the quick cheat sheet that I put on the tech classroom. But you can also have these breakout rooms instead of small groups. Just say if we're doing some practice or you're doing, they're doing some individual work, you can have it be like, look, this is a really quiet room. It's just for you. You can have it be like a quiet but ask questions to each other room. And then you can have it be like, we're going to get this work done while we're chatting about the work. And then I want the teacher to be in here and ask her questions specifically. And sometimes that works really well because you'll start an assignment, someone will maybe come in late, and then the people that are on Google Meets at home are like, oh my goodness, I already heard all this. I just want to get started, but this is distracting. And you can throw them in their own breakout room if they want, and then they can come back to the main call if they have questions. You can check in on them. I've also used it to address individual stuff with some of my remote students that logged in. I've been having kind of trouble getting that communication going, and I'll say, oh, okay, I'm going to put you in a breakout room. I step out in the hallway really quick, have a conversation with them one-on-one. I just put the headphones in, and then come back into the room once we're done. So it's a nice way to just clarify something with a student without feeling like they're being called out. I think that's all I want to go over, and I hope that was helpful.